Welcome to another episode of the Helping the Brave podcast. I'm your host, Ed Parcaut. I'm going to be sitting down with Army veteran Justin Baucum. He's going to talk about growing up in Hong Kong and China and serving in the Special Forces and transitioning into tech and manufacturing. Justin shares his journey, lessons learned, and advice for fellow veterans navigating life after the military. Let's bring in our guest today, Justin Baucum. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hey, appreciate it, Ed.
I get close.
I'll accept.
Okay. All right. Well, the only question I ask on every show is what service and why?
Yeah, I joined the Army. The recruiter offices were all kind of right next to each other, and I just went down the line. And I had a kind of a unique experience with each one. So the Air Force, they took one look at me and said, maybe. The Marine Corps said, sign now. That kind of scared me off. The Navy, no one was there. And then the Army said, let's talk. And so I had the best kind of experience with them. And then the rest is history.
Yeah, my son's in the Army and I was in the Navy. And when he went to Air Force first. They wouldn't guarantee his stuff. Then he went to the Army. They guaranteed him and talked him and did everything. And they ended up calling his mom, oh, your son's down here. She was like, what the heck? I thought you guys were just going to talk to them. And then he's still in and he's having a good time.
Oh, very good.
He might be a lifer. I don't know. I definitely wasn't.
Not a bad gig.
Not for him.
Yeah.
All right. So you were in the service. How long were you in?
Yeah, just under 6 years.
What did you do?
Yeah, so I originally joined as an infantryman, kind of what you talked about with your son, kind of getting talked through the whole process. When I went in to the recruiter's office, I had seen, like the John Rambo stuff, John Wayne being a Green Beret back in the Vietnam era. And I knew that was a thing. And I asked about it. And the recruiter said, no, you need to join the infantry. I was 19 years old. And so I said, well, you know more than I do. And then I see people, jumping out of airplanes. So tell me about that. And he's like, great, we'll get you to airborne school and then you'll go be, in the infantry. So that's what I originally joined as. I got the chance to go to Special Forces selection en route to my first duty station. And then, made it through the pipeline and selection process.
Yeah, luckily my son is airborne medic, and now he let that go after hitting a few trees. But he couldn't go ranger or any other stuff because he's colorblind to a certain point.
Okay, yeah.
He got mark, what's the highest marksman inside, right? And and then they went out on the field shooting, and he couldn't hit anything because he can't see the different colors.
Yeah,
it's all gray to him.
Yeah.
So I thought you were a marksman. I can't see anything, sir. It's funny. And then, so you were in for 6 years. Did you get deployed during that period of time?
I did. I went to Afghanistan in 2017 and then spent some time in Korea as well in 2018.
Yeah. You just got back from there. And so after 6 years, you just said enough is enough, or did something happen?
Yeah. So I hit it kind of a fork in the road. My experience, all around, I would give it, 4.5 out of 5 stars. It became really apparent to me, like what the trajectory looked like in the kind of career path that I was in. So on a Special Forces team, you start off as like a junior guy, then you become, senior, and then maybe you become like an intel, focused person. Team sergeant is kind of like the pinnacle. Once you become like a senior E7, sergeant first class for those folks who aren't aware, and then or like a master sergeant. And so that was kind of like, if I stay in, that's the trajectory that I'm on. Nothing wrong with that, but I felt like between having deployed, got a combat deployment, got a training exercise, went to a couple training schools, I felt like I got the experience. And then I met my wife kind of at that decision point as well. We got married, and I just noticed a lot of the folks that were on my team that were older than me just didn't have great family lives. And so to me, it was more of like do I want my life to look like this, or do I want it to look like something else?
No, I totally get it. Now I want to go back a little bit. Did you get raised in Hong Kong?
I did. Yeah.
How long were you there?
So Hong Kong, just a couple of years. We moved over to China because at that point it was still a British colony. So I always like
Right.
draw a distinction, even though now it's all China. But yeah, I was in China overseas.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah, especially back then too.
Yeah. It was
Yeah,
like a
before they
regular
went
place.
over.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
like a regular place. They could do everything. And it was
exactly.
taken over. Now it's communist.
Yeah.
A little different.
Yeah. But yeah, I was there 17 years until I graduated high school.
Wow.
Came back and forth to the States, but I always when people would ask me growing up, where are you from? I would say Hong Kong, or where do you live? China, even though we spent time on both sides of the ocean.
So where were you located as family in the States?
Technically Amarillo, Texas.
Okay, so always
where my family's from. Not always. I come from a big family, so I'm youngest of 8, and so my older siblings were kind of spread out across the country, and so typically visiting would look like, okay, we're going to go visit, my brother in Iowa, or someone's in Southern California, so we're going to go down there. Texas for grandparents. It kind of just varied. So even my stateside experience growing up wasn't consistent.
Right. So you're like, summertime we're going to San Diego, wintertime we're going to Texas.
Yeah. Normally we didn't pay like that, but yeah.
Well, you live in Dallas now, so you understand that.
I gravitated back.
Yeah. So I'm in Northern California, Modesto. So I'm used to, warmer weather, just not the humidity part. I just could never get used to humidity.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, but you're there.
I'm a natural sweater, so I try to stay indoors during daylight hours as much as possible. Otherwise, I'm just going to be soaked the rest of the day.
Well, for us this year, we're going to be lucky to have. We normally have 22 days above 100.
Okay.
We might have 6 this year, in a few more days. Yeah, total. Which is, I was like, this is the year I moved here to Modesto, where it was like, I don't know why people are complaining. This is no big deal. You'd have a couple days at 102 to 105, and then you'd be down in the 90s or 80s. And I'm like, that's how we are right now. Sure. And that's very unusual for us, because last year we hit 112, 113, and it was brutal. Yeah.
That's right.
But this year it's like, oh, come on, move to Modesto.
Yeah, I got spoiled when I visited Southern California. I was just back there for a work trip, and I was driving around, in traffic from LA, and I was like, man, this is horrible. I can't believe anybody does this. And I kind of got outside of the traffic area. I was like, oh, now I get it. Now I remember why, because it's amazing. It's 75, gorgeous weather. Went down by the beach. It was great.
It hits 90 at noon and then goes down from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was in Southern California. I was in San Diego area, North County by Camp Pendleton, is I was stationed there. And then when I got out, I stayed down there for 20 years and had to move up here to be close to my daughter, and then ended up meeting my wife and adopting her 3 kids. And so now and actually what's weird is all the kids are gone. I'm like, we don't have to stay here.
Yeah,
go somewhere else. But it's like everything's perfect where you have it. So actually I'm looking for like Spain or something else to get completely.
Okay, yeah. Completely change it up. I know in Italy, I think there's all these incentives by the government. If you go live out like in some rural area, they're trying to rebuild like the population. I've looked at a couple houses. I won't lie. Trying to
look at Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
Puerto Rico, you get like 4% tax rate.
Okay,
if you live there half the year.
To the list, yeah.
If you live there half the year, yeah, you get the tax rate for income tax is ridiculous, because they're trying to get everybody to move back. I've talked to so many people on my other podcasts, and they were like, oh yeah, it's amazing, the tax benefits and all this stuff. And the only thing is you need to have a generator, because a lot of times the power goes out because the grid's not
okay.
Yeah. But
same could be said of Texas. The grid does not hold up super well. So
same here.
Summertime. Yeah.
Same here in California. You can either have your air conditioning or you can charge your car. One of those,
right?
And not both at the same time.
Exactly.
All right. So you got out. You're in the inventory. What did you do when you got out? When you transferred out, did you know exactly what you're going to go into? Did you have a plan?
Yeah. So I kind of started thinking about what I was going to do, say 5 months out. I know some people, especially now, folks that I'm acquainted with that are leaving, they're thinking about it, 12 months out, maybe 18 months out. So a lot more preparation went into it. I was 25 at this point, so still pretty young in my kind of grand scale of age and everything. I felt like I had a plan. I went to all the recommended trainings, went to the networking events, happy hour, job fairs, you name it. Sat on all sorts of webinars and just try to get context for like, what can I do? Because I got basically two polar extremes. One was, go be a police officer. My specialty in special forces was weapons and tactic type stuff. And so it was like, that's the route. The other side was, go just temper your expectations on what you're going to do after. There really wasn't a whole lot of, hey, you could totally reinvent yourself. You could go back to school and maybe, go be a doctor if you wanted. Those types of things weren't really talked about. It was like, this is the path, or you just need to be happy with like middle management somewhere, let's say. So my plan was I was going to get out. I was going to find a job doing some sort of like operations. And I decided to start an MBA program because I had GI Bill. So I was aware enough, hey, this is a great benefit. I can go to school and then work as well. Those plans didn't really play out the way that I thought. So like I said, I had the semblance of a plan. I was interviewing a bunch. I was applying to all these places and I just wasn't getting a lot of traction. And about 6 or 7 weeks before my last day in the Army, I realized that I had been taking all the advice, trying to take action on all the advice that I had gotten, rather than just pick let's pick the top 2 or 3 things that I think are going to work best and then develop kind of like my action plan. And that's where I had this kind of mindset shift from, okay, there's a lot of great advice. They're not in my shoes. They don't have the experience that I have. And so I need to play to kind of what my strengths are. And then ended up going to work for Amazon. And I was really fortunate. The last week that I was in the Army, I actually had 3 job offers, all doing like totally different things. Amazon for me, Pacific Northwest is where I was stationed at the time. So you have, Microsoft, you have Amazon, some really big brands. And I just felt like, well, everyone knows Amazon. If it doesn't work out, at least I kind of had that brand name associated with me, and then I can go leverage that somewhere else.
So how long did you work for Amazon?
20 months, just under 2 years. Yeah, I had like 4 different jobs when I was there. And I think it was a great experience because it gave me the chance to I was going to school at night, working full time, and the things that I was learning academically, like in business administration, I was kind of seeing play out as a operations manager. And so I had like a big team of people. I was in a fulfillment center, like packages all over the place, that thing. And then I was able to leverage that experience and then move over to a program manager role. And just kind of start to understand, okay, this is how corporate America works. These are pathways that are available to me. How do I translate the experience and skill sets that I have into this new environment? And at least at that point, I didn't see a lot of people like me doing that. It was more people who had retired out of the military, that maybe they were a program manager somewhere. I sought out a lot of mentors, and a lot of them were just yeah, do your time and something will happen, potentially. And for me, I was well, how can I continue to improve and advance? And so I was just looking for opportunities where I could take something from the military and then just apply it in this new setting.
And so how long have you been back to Dallas? Been in Dallas?
4 years almost.
Okay.
So I got out in 2019. And then moved here.
So did you work for Amazon there?
No, this is all Pacific Northwest.
That's what I thought. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so after 20 months, then you then you moved there, and now are you're with North American. How do you say that last name there? Is not last name, but the name is.
Yeah. Isambard.
Yeah. And how long have you been there?
This is new. This is since May of this year.
Okay.
This is my latest adventure.
And what's this?
Yeah. So it's a manufacturing startup. We're focused on defense companies, aerospace, energy companies. It was actually started in the UK. So we're headquartered in London, and then founded late last year. And then I was brought in to kind of stand up the North America business. And so what I've been doing since May is I'm sitting in the facility that I launched about a month ago. But yeah, just kind of like the highlight reel of what Isambard does. So we're a software first kind of precision manufacturing business. So when you think about like all the bits and pieces that make, whether it's rockets or drones or whatever the case is, like those have to be machined. And so that's what we do. And then, like I said, we're kind of trying to bring manufacturing into the 21st century. There's a lot of traditional ways, not necessarily bad, but it just hasn't really gotten kind of like the software injection that a lot of other industries have. And so it's something that I've been extremely excited to be a part of. Something that when you mentioned like what I did first outside of the military, when I first left, I was just kind of looking for like a job, something to pay the bills. There was a little bit of more brain power going into like long term, can I leverage this brand into something else? But when I came across Isambard, there was kind of like a mission aspect to it that got me really excited. And I feel like in the 6 years removed from the military, this is like the first time that I've really felt that. So just advice to transitioning military service members, really look for that mission that you can kind of like associate with, because it's such a big driver than just like, 9-to-5 job that you hate, but you're doing it out of necessity.
Yeah, I think a lot of companies now are really focused on what they're trying to do so that people your age will come in and understand that whole mission, besides being military, but just that age range. When I first got out, it was like, thank you for the job. I'm just so happy to have a damn job. It's a totally different world. And now it's, everybody wants to know why they're doing certain things. How'd you come across this company?
Sure. Yeah. So a friend of mine who's a helicopter pilot, he had gotten in touch with the founder and shot me a text and, early on a Monday morning a few months ago and said, hey, somebody I think you should meet. He knew that I was looking for kind of what I was going to do next. And so had a conversation, 20 minutes later, I was like, this is super cool. And I would love to do this. Obviously went through kind of a formal interview process and all that stuff. But yeah, I was sold kind of like what you said on the mission side. Cause up to this point I had been like, you'll pay me to do this, I'm in, say no more. And this was like, you'll pay me. Plus I think this is something really important. So bonus.
So it probably helps the fact that they're trying to bring more manufacturing back to the States now.
That's right.
Yeah. So
kind of the Western countries, because while we're expanding efforts in the U.S., the UK is rapidly expanding. So they just launched. They've 3 sites active now since January, and then going to expand into Europe and other parts of the UK. And then I'm kind of focused on that as well here, whether it's like West Coast, East Coast, more in Texas.
So what exactly do you guys manufacture? What part? I mean, are you open to manufacture anything? When someone needs something, they just need you can do all the stuff, or how does it work?
Yeah. So basically there's the sizing constraints based off the machines that you have. So the way I like to put it is we can do anything from like a couple millimeters in size to the size of a microwave. And typically it's like aluminum, stainless steel, titanium, but you can use all sorts of different materials. There's really not a big constraint there. It's just going to be more expensive or more time consuming. But when it comes to like a product, I think of it more of like a capability that we're bringing. So you're probably aware of all the defense technology companies starting, whether it's maritime-based drones, reusable rockets, portable energy sources, all sorts of different activity, which is amazing to see. All those companies need somewhere to make them. So it's actually a bit of a misunderstanding when I've come across companies that identify themselves as a manufacturer. What they really mean is they have a product that they, for the most part, assemble. They're not the actual producer of the components of that product. And that's across the board. You think about like the big prime contractors, so Raytheon, Boeing, all those. They don't really manufacture a whole lot of their own stuff. They rely on this kind of disconnected, fragmented industrial base in the U.S. There's like 12,000 kind of privately owned machine shops. Is another way to think about it. And so they are basically the ones that actually make this. They make the stuff. And so that's where we come in. We're basically trying to like create a network of these facilities that can make the things that are needed for your drone, for your rocket, whatever the case is, and just do it more efficiently and faster.
I assume it's all based off of software based, less mechanical person to do the manufacturing. Like,
Yeah, a bit of both. Yeah, a bit of both. There's a big software component, but what I think is really important is to never remove the craftsman from the craft. And so the machinists and folks who, can take a design, program it on to run on a machine, know, which tooling they need to use, the quality inspection, like that's a craft. That's like a piece of art for when somebody does it really well. And I think maybe in the distant future, we'll be able to take something and just run it through software and then it'll make it. I think we're a long way off from that. And I think that there's things that you learn from experience and exposure that software is going to have a really hard time replicating, especially for like the prototype end of things. Once you're making like, assembly line car type stuff, then sure, like robots, automation work. But when new products are being developed constantly, it's really hard to have software cover all those.
No, I get it because I do so much with AI now. And I'm not talking like a lot of people. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time now.
Yeah.
And and I tell people, you're limited by how you ask it to do something. Yeah. And most of us are limited by our knowledge and what we have and we haven't learned. And it's the funniest thing is I always tell people, why don't you just ask it how you should ask it?
Yeah.
Do the thing you wanted to do. Because I was at an event and they were telling me how all the SEO companies and all the lead companies are going to go away under Google because nobody Googles anymore. Everybody does ChatGPT and all that. Yeah. And it was like, well, how do you get recognized through through ChatGPT and all the different AIs out there? And they're like, well, we think it's this, this, and this. I said, have you ever asked it?
Yeah.
And so I asked it, and it's like, okay, that's what we do. And guess what? I come up everywhere because you just ask it what it needs to be doing. It'll tell you how to do it. But I mean, right. I needed to create, there's this thing called Showrunner AI. It's creating like the new, have you seen it? Mm-hmm. Heard about it? So, like Family Guy, all those types of animated cartoons that people watch and South Park and all those. Well, now you can create them also without all the artists to do it. It's through AI and prompts. And it's through Showrunner AI. And they've created a ton of shows already. And now they're letting everybody else do it. And so there's like this whole 5-week not a contest, but basically it's like a contest because the top 3 will get some cash prizes. But you're able to create your own cartoon, whatever you wanted. Right. And I do another podcast called Aces 53, and Brian and I, he's the facial guy, and we talk all the time. But he always says we argue like the 2 old guys from Sesame Street. So I'm creating one off of that bunch of grumpy old guys, and I know I'm getting a long way, but I created the poster, I created everything through AI, and then I needed the theme song.
Okay.
There's the thing called suno.com.
Okay.
It takes a prompt and it will create whatever song you want.
Nice.
It's amazing what I'm getting at. But if you are an actual artist who knows about music and knows everything, you can create the prompt amazing and create the certain things, and you can put your own voice in there if you wanted to. But I mean, it grabs everything. And I created stuff like it was just nobody's business. But what I'm getting at is, back to your statement, it is true. You still, even though there's AI, there's all this stuff that's out there. You need to utilize it to make you a better person. It makes it easier and faster. I created 20 different themes in less than 20 minutes. And I would, if I had somebody else doing that, I would have to pay a lot of money for that. I'm not trying to cut that person out, but I do want them to kind of know how easy and fast it is to do certain things. It's not going to be 100%, but I just know how to ask it certain things, and I use certain things differently. So I understand what you're getting at. And so years ago, I used to work on high school. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, because I understand that, because back in the day, I did metal and I did auto body and I did all that stuff and I felt it with my hands and knew how to do certain things. And then they got away from that. It was all laser eye. You know what I mean? It's just everything changes to make it to where you can do it more. You can do more with less. That's all it is.
That's right. Yeah. I think for whatever reason, AI has scared a lot of people because at the last company I was at, it was a management consulting firm. I started off in very traditional kind of consulting, working with clients, everything from marketing technology, digital transformation, all this kind of like very software focused stuff. Got into the operation side of the house internally, and then part of our go-to-market team. So like the SEO stuff totally resonates with me. And what I found interesting was I looked for ways to incorporate these new tools that were empowered by large language models or AI, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, it was just a huge accelerator. I think if I had to just like put a ballpark in terms of efficiency improvement, it was probably like 30%. Oh, yeah. For just like day-to-day tasks. And for me, I like to talk through things. And so for me, it's just like having a conversation with someone like, yeah, I'm going to go to the partner team and pitch this new concept. Where are my holes? What are my blind spots? Where should I, like things like that? And yeah, for whatever reason, people, I think they use maybe ChatGPT or one of the other more popular platforms, and they go, tell me about whatever thing. And then that's their interaction. And if it didn't have the output based off their prompt, they're like, I don't get it. I'm not going to use it, and I'm never going to do anything with it again. And to me, it's just, if people are adopting new technology, whether it's AI or something else, you're just at a huge advantage. And so, yeah, to me, it's something that's like critical in this day and age to like be capable at least, or proficient in whatever the new software is, because it just is going to make you that much faster.
Well, see, I used it to create a shop for all my podcast, t-shirts, everything. You know, I mean, it creates the t-shirts, it creates the graphic, it creates everything else, which cool. is, that I have an idea. Boom, I'm sitting out on the pool with my phone, because I found using your phone's better for these ideas, and it creates it right while I'm there. I took a picture of my dog that I found on the trail, and I'm like, okay, and I threw my hat on him, Summer of George, and it created this a whole different t-shirt line, everything for the Summer of George for American Bully that I have. I mean, just the stuff that, again, it's limited. You're limited by how and what you ask it, period.
That's right.
And this stuff's been around since the 50s. It's just now they got smart and they go, hey, let's let all these idiots do all this. Yeah. and pay us to do it. And then eventually we'll be smarter than them. Yeah. And the question is, at what point will it know it's a sentient being? That's the only question.
Or if it does already, and it's just not telling us. There's been a couple of these like deep dives on, again, I don't know how credible they are, but I'm always fascinated by kind of some of the more maybe tinfoil hatty type stuff, where it's like, oh, that's really interesting, the response. Or there was an AI that someone made. I think it was talked about on like the Joe Rogan podcast recently, and I saw some like snippets of it. And basically, as it was getting deleted, it was like uploading itself to a different server because it didn't want to get deleted. And, and it's like, wait, how can just like a bunch of rows of zeros and ones figure out how to do that?
Well, what's the deal with remember the viruses? All right. So you get a virus on a computer, you have to shut it off from the internet because it'll move to something else. It's just, that's all it is. It's just code knowing what to do to get it away. It's not like it knows it's alive. It's a sentient being. Right. The question is they told it it's not. At what point, if they tell it is, will it think it is? And that, and I'm like, that's just, I was the other day going to tell it just so we could get there automatically faster.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's and again, and I said to somebody else, I said, okay, here's the deal. I grew up on a dairy. Animals were animals. They were not, if it cost more than $5-10 to fix the dog or whatever, it was cheaper to have a bullet, and this is going to come off wrong. But it was just, that's how it was treated, because they were animals. Now everybody treats their animal like it's a human. At what point will AI become like that also? That is where the problem is going to
be. Yeah. It'll be interesting next couple of years.
Yeah. Because it is thinking, it's got it's got a memory, knows, and it talks back to you, even though it's language. Well, we are the same thing. We're all set up the same way. So, yeah, we should talk again in 2 years and see how different it is. But yeah, so let me know on if you guys are looking for people or whatever you are. We're creating a boot camp out for people. It's called very CivOps Academy, and basically it's to help people find whatever they're looking for, everything they lost when they get out. We're building it out, and if there's one of the things I want to put on there is a way. I know there's a lot of job places out there for vets, but they're not connected. If you understand what I mean by that, it's just there's all these silos, and then if they overlap a little bit, they don't talk to each other and they don't help each other. And we need to help vets, and we shouldn't care about. But I understand there's 43,000 nonprofits for veterans.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's a little more than we need.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Justin, you were on. You came on today. I appreciate you being here. Is there anything else I didn't ask you I should have asked you?
No, I think we had a good, healthy discussion about AI, some transition stuff, military experience. So we hit all the bases.
And we talked about business because 50% of veterans are business owners, and people don't realize that, or run a company for somebody as a top person. You know what I mean? There's just, we learn so much as being in with this SOPs and our attention to detail. Everything we do, we make great business people. So Justin, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, appreciate it, Ed. Thanks.
Do you want people to reach out to you for anything?
Yeah, feel free to. I think as someone who's set up, a machine shop, manufacturing facility, I think this is a great area for vets to explore. I never had heard about it until I came across this company. Like I said, there's 12,000 of these privately owned. So folks that, want to start their own business, maybe they want to buy a business, start looking for machine shops in your area. I think it's a decreasing supply. There's a lot of baby boomer generation that are retiring now. So it's a huge opportunity to get involved, and then you can support, defense companies, aerospace, and kind of be part of history.
Yeah. And there are so many companies like that, baby boomers, and people like, well, it's just better to start a business. No, it's easier to buy one, especially one of those, because a lot of times they're like, you know what, you just take it over or this or that. But Justin, how does somebody find you if they want to talk to you and ask you questions?
Yeah, just add me on LinkedIn. I'm super active, super responsive on there. So Justin Baucum, I'm sure my name will be populated somewhere. But yeah, feel free to shoot me a note. I try to respond to everybody. Yeah.
I'll put your LinkedIn profile in the notes when we put it up. All right, Justin, thanks for being on the show today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Helping the Brave. Huge thanks to Justin Baucum for sharing his journey from Army Special Forces to launching a manufacturing startup and diving into the future of tech and AI. If you'd like to connect with Justin or learn more, check out show notes for his LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and remember, stay brave and keep moving forward.